Senator Merkley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your service and your testimony. Do you and does the administration support the ability of Palestinians from Gaza to be able to return to their homes in Gaza when Gaza starts to rebuild?
Yeah. First of all, Senator, I do want to thank you for hosting me for breakfast, and we're taking steps to make sure that your famous breakfast order is enshrined in the menu, and so thank you for that.
The trifecta.
The trifecta, right.
Thank you.
So, look, I believe that is our policy. I think that is the just and right thing to do, and I believe that the United States will need and will want to work with other partners to ensure that that ability is possible.
Thank you. And will the U.S. work with Israel, with the Defense Forces, with the National Police to make sure that any armaments we provide, and particularly small arms and semi-automatic or automatic machine guns, are not transferred to settlers outside of the INP and the IDF?
Senator, to be honest, I do not know enough about those particular provisions. I know that we are working closely with the Israelis to ensure that actions taken seek to minimize damage to women and children, to civilians. I will need to get back to you directly on that specific question.
Thank you. I'll just point out that given the increased settler violence, on a lot of attacks on Palestinian villagers, that I would be very concerned, and I know many Americans would be very concerned for our arms to be transferred that are intended for the IDF and the INP to be transferred to settlers.
Yeah. I will say I've seen the statements of Secretary Blinken and others condemning those actions against Palestinian civilians. I share your concern here.
So the administration has expressed concern about how the expansion of settlements and outposts and checkpoints make the vision of two states for two peoples a very difficult path. Would it make sense to have an annual report that tracks the expansion of existing settlements, the establishment of new settlements, checkpoints, and outposts?
Look, I think consultation with the Hill on this critical set of issues is essential. And I believe that as we go forward, the only viable way is a two-state solution. It's going to be extremely difficult, as you point out, highly contentious, but it is the only way to ensure that the region can live in peace. I think that there are going to be myriad ways that the executive branch needs to work with partners on Capitol Hill to ensure that this is truly a national effort. And so I would support any appropriate communications or engagement.
Yeah. And one of the reasons I was framing the questions in this way in terms of the administration, because we've heard folks in the administration say, we don't want conditions on the bill, but we are intending to press hard on a series of key issues. And I was trying to clarify whether these were the types of key issues the administration is planning to press on.
Yeah. So look, Senator, I can say that I know that there are discussions underway now on how we are thinking about the way forward after this terrible conflict concludes. Some of that, frankly, awaits if I'm confirmed. And so I would like to just suggest to you that if confirmed, I promise to make sure I'm deeply familiar and engaged in those discussions, and then we'll engage with you as such.
Well, I want to restate how absolutely horrific the attacks were by Hamas. I also want to be very clear that the only future peace based on positive aspirations for the Israelis and the Palestinians does involve two states for two people, and that we have to work very hard towards that, and as you have stated. Turning to Ukraine, it was in 1938 when Chamberlain went to Munich and said to Hitler, we'll look the other way, we'll declare peace in our time, you go ahead and take that piece of Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
I am concerned that if we fail to provide support to Ukraine, which will also affect the whole Atlantic Alliance, It'll drive cracks in NATO. It will certainly undermine the support of other nations for Ukraine, that there is an equivalence to saying to Putin, well, you can take Ukraine. And I consider this possibility of a Munich-style moment, this style of appeasement of Putin, to be an enormous mistake should we fail to provide support to Ukraine. Is there anything to my analogy that you find resonance in?
Senator, I completely identify with what you've laid out. I'm of a generation that very familiar with the false promises of appeasement in the 1930s. I can remember in debates that at Oxford and elsewhere that the harshest criticism that someone could make at you or to someone is, where's your umbrella? Like the umbrella that Chamberlain carried into Munich. So I do believe authoritarians follow closely, take lessons, and I think that this is an intense test of American commitment. I will say, I think through the support of this body and others and the bipartisan efforts that we've seen, I think if we look at the last 2 years, we have done remarkable things and we can do more, working closely with our Ukrainian partners, and I'm committed to support that. And I think there are strong supporters on Capitol Hill to see this through as well.